Bonjour everyone, how's it going? It's me, Jaylene, also known as Vancouver. My camera was in the hospital for a little while, so be sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss the slew of new videos I have for you. Today I wanted to talk about the sexy topic of sexual health. I will cover 4 very important things. Number 1, what are sexual health boundaries? Number 2, what kinds of sexual health boundaries you can have. Number 3, I wanted to give an example of boundaries, so I'm going to be personally sharing my personal sexual health boundaries in this video. And number 4, how to map out your sexual health boundaries. Number 1, what are sexual health boundaries? There are 2 definitions I want to make clear. Number 1, sexual health. For most of us, this means keeping an awareness of your personal health related to sex, i.e. STI status, as well as the number of partners you've had unprotected sex with since your last STI test. To define sexual health boundaries, however, this means the certain protective measures that you choose to take to minimize your own risk of sexual transmitted infections, otherwise known as STIs, for both you and your sexual partner or partners. Number 2, what kinds of boundaries can you have? Here I'm going to go over a list of different variations of boundaries, the certain risks involved with each one, as well as an example of a boundary for that scenario. These scenarios can be for any kind of sex, so whether it's oral, anal, vaginal, you name it. Alas, it's sexual health game time. Scenario number 1. Not tested and not using protection. The risks here are the unknown. This one is pretty self-explanatory. The biggest risk is that you're going into the unknown without any protection involved. Kind of like conquering a new land with no weapons or shields. Many people know that the risk of STIs is very, very high in this scenario for vaginal and anal sex. But what about digital, i.e. fingers, and oral sex? You can attract chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, HIV, and even herpes through oral sex. Note, I have a friend who is a sex worker tell me that her doctor told her that certain, when I say certain, STIs are more easily contracted when you are sucking dick than licking pussy, and that is because your throat is more exposed to a penis than it would be to a vagina giving oral. In addition to what I just said, some common, very common STIs such as chlamydia and gonorrhea, they both reside in the throat itself when infected, hence why we do throat swabs when we're doing an oral STI test. Herpes, syphilis, and HIV, however, you're still at complete equal risk for in unprotected oral, whether it's a pussy or a penis. I'll leave it to you to make your own choices with that information. As for the digital and hand stuff, there are 2 aspects of risk. Number 1, let's say you're in an orgy and someone finger bangs a person that you don't really know and then starts finger banging you. You just shared bodily fluids with someone whose sexual history you don't know anything about. Scary! And number 2, what if your sex partner has a cut or any abrasions on their hands, or they have a sharp hangnail or anything that cut you while they're doing digital sex? That is another risk of exposure if you do not know this partner's STI status. So if you want to play safe, use those sexy latex gloves. They're hot anyways. On to scenario number 2. Tested negative for STIs, but using no protection. The risk here is the circle of transmission. In this scenario, be sure to consider or ask your partner how many other partners have they had unprotected sex with, whether that is anal, oral, vaginal, etc., since their last STI test. Hopefully they will have a number and you can make an informed decision, because that's the main thing you really need here, an informed decision whether you want to proceed or not unprotected. But do not forget about the circle of transmission when you are making this decision. What do you mean by that, Jaylene? If your sex partner tells you that their other sex partners have not had any sex with anyone else since this last STI test, then it's going to be a closed circle of transmission, i.e. there is a known limit and number of people that you know you're sharing potential STI exposure with. As a little note, I wanted to say this is a big, huge trust game here, as not only do you need to trust that your sex partner is telling you the truth of their number of sex partners, but you also have to trust that your sex partners are telling your sex partner the truth about their number as well. If the other sex partners have other partners, then it is an open circle of transmission, i.e. it is more risky and unknown. I made a graph here because sex cooties can be complicated. Scenario number 3. Tested positive for STIs and using no protection. The risk here is that you are informed, but you're not 1000% safe from transmission. This is a fully informed choice on your part. If you are having sex with someone with a 24/7 transmissible STI, you will most likely be infected as well. I wanted to chat about this scenario because there are 2 STIs I do want to cover. The first one I want to talk about was HIV. People who are HIV positive, there now is a medication involved that you can take that really makes it undetectable when you are taking an STI test. It's a medication they have to take almost every day. When they are becoming undetectable on their STI test, it also means that they are untransmissible, thus meaning that you can have unprotected sex with your HIV positive partner and not receive HIV. Undetectable equals untransmittable. Good job, modern science. The second STI I wanted to talk about was herpes, otherwise known as HSV1 and HSV2. This STI is not transmissible 24/7. It's only transmissible when you have an actual outbreak, i.e. when the sores surface or about to surface to the skin. As someone who does get cold sores on my lips, i.e. I do have HSV1, which is in conclusion to about 60 to 80% of the US population also has HSV. Imagine that, it's more common than you think. I say that there are 2 aspects of trust needed to minimize the risk of transmission. Number 1 is the person who does has HSV needs to know to trust themselves to know their selves and their own body. For me, I'm very aware of when my body is in a state of breakout or pre-breakout even, and thus I know when to limit myself from either kissing or giving oral sex. And number 2 is the trust involved with your partner who is HSV positive to tell you when their lips or down there is off limits. To those with herpes, i.e. HSV1 or HSV2, trust me when I say I understand that it can be very scary to tell people when you do have a breakout. But trust me, in almost every experience I have personally had, instead of being shamed for letting them know that I do have a breakout of HSV1, they rather actually give me a really appreciative thank you for helping keep them safe from the risk of transmission. All right, now moving on to number 3, my own personal sexual health boundaries. I wanted to share here my own personal safety boundaries when it does come to sexy time, so you have a better idea of how someone can build their own sexual code of conduct. Just a little note here that these boundaries are deeply personal that I'm sharing with you here. And just like myself, everyone is permitted to create the sexual health boundaries that they want and have them respected as their own. To make a new sex partner an established sex partner, this is what I ask. When was the last time you got tested? And what were the results? If this is still someone I don't have 100% trust in just yet, I will ask to see the results myself. If they have negative results, I ask, how many people have you had unprotected sex with since that last test, including oral, both giving and receiving. For penis owners, if they reply that they've had sex with more than 3 people, I put a condom on during oral sex. For vagina owners, if it is more than 3 people, I will either A, use cling wrap, or B, take a very good look down there when I'm down there to see if there's any cuts, sores, etc., unhealthy discharge before I start doing unprotected contact. If the penis owner or vagina replies to me that they've had sex with either 3 people or less since their last STI test, I'll consider them an established safe sex partner, i.e. I'll enjoy unprotected oral sex with them without much worry of major risks. For unprotected vaginal or anal sex, I will only enjoy that with one established sex partner at a time, i.e. someone who I consider my primary partner or boo. My primary partner I consider to be a long-term partner that I have invested much time into getting to know and develop a lot of trust in. If I had no primary partner in my life at that time, I will enjoy protected sex for all genital contact. My boundaries for when I'm in a group play or sex party scenario are, for the genital sex, I'll have either a condom on my partner's cock or cling wrap between me and my partner's vaginas. For oral play on me, I will use cling wrap or dental dams with a sex partner if they have performed any unprotected oral sex on anyone else in the group play sex party before me. If my sex partner has not performed any unprotected oral sex before me, nor do their lips have any cuts or sores on them, I will enjoy oral sex on me without protection. For oral play on others, for penis owners, I do put a condom on it unless they are an established sex partner who has not received any unprotected oral from anyone else in the group play. For my vagina owner partners, I do use cling wrap or dental dams if they have enjoyed any unprotected vaginal or anal sex in the group play itself, or if they have any cuts, sores, or unhealthy discharge. Thanks for letting me share my personal boundaries with you all. On to number 4, mapping out your own sexual health boundaries. I want to say that my own personal sexual health boundaries took a lot of thought and time. I mentally and emotionally placed myself in every scenario that I did go over with you guys earlier, and with regard to my knowledge of circular transmission and risk, really asked myself how I would feel. Do I feel safe in this scenario? And is the pleasure worth the risk if I choose to do something I feel unsafe doing? And people, when your gut feeling gives you an answer, be sure to follow it. It is better to disappoint another person than to actually disappoint yourself and what your actual body is trying to tell you. Do you perhaps need a little bit more clarity on your own sexual health and boundaries? Or perhaps you don't feel confident enough to how to navigate your own sexual health boundaries with other people? You are more than welcome to contact me for a one-on-one confidential coaching call. I do like to provide a safe space for my clients. My website link is in the bio below. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and also learning more about your own sexual health. It is me, Vancouver.